Okay, so I've made a start on filling in this doorway. I need to go all the way to the top there, and you can see I've bricked up about a third of it. I also placed this acro. There's a wall that's sitting on top of it, and I don't want to disturb it and the whole thing come down. Around the back here is still hollow, and because I'm putting in a new beam, this big wooden beam is going to get replaced with a steel one. Because I'm putting that in, I need this wall here to be very solid, so I've got some stones here in buckets, just clean them a bit, get some of the dirt off them, and I'm going to build this wall up at the back, just going to fill it in with stones, so I want it to look the same as this wall here. Okay, here's 12 buckets of stones. It's little bit over a third, maybe 2/5 of the doorway, and yeah, I've done that. I'm going to let the mortar go off. I think it's a slightly different colour, it's a lot darker than my other mortar. It hasn't dried yet, it should lighten up a bit. And here it is from the other side. I got a little help from my mum. I taught her how to do bricklaying and she really enjoyed it. So she did the top half of this side. And I'm going to leave it there and fill the rest in up to the very top a bit later, once I've got this beam out. Because I think when this beam comes out, all of this stuff is going to fall off. And so I'm just going to wait before I do the rest, and I'll be able to get that off and sort of brick it up again nicely. So yeah, that beam is coming out soon. Right, here's an old beam that I've pulled out of one of the, well actually that beam came out of this ceiling here that's gone. And I'm going to reuse it here, so I'm going to put that across here just to span that gap a little bit. Right, I got the beam in. It's only temporarily, just seeing if it fits. Yeah, I bashed out some of this brick wall here, and I'm gonna replace it when I put the beam in properly. And the same over here, just bashed out a bit of the wall up the top, and I'm gonna sort of fill it in shortly once I have cut this beam. So I'm going to cut the beam down to length. Right, I've got this beam in properly, cut it off and mortared it in with a brick underneath it there. And in here it's nicely mortared in on both sides. Yeah, it looks good. So in the morning, once this mortar's gone off and dried, I'm going to take the acro away. Looks like the mortar's gone off now and it's nice and dry. So I've taken away the acro that was supporting it. And it's looking good. Right, so I've got some acros set up. I've only got 2 up here for 4 beams. So they kind of span, how do I show you this? Yeah, they kind of span 2 beams. You can kind of see it here actually, here you can see it better. So you've got 1 beam here, 1 beam here, a fat piece of wood, and then the acro in the centre. So on this beam I've put a ratchet strap to sort of keep it from wobbling on this plane, you know, wobbling that way. I've got a acro under it to keep it up. Cut a nice chunk out of this beam, and the only thing that's keeping it up now is this ratchet strap, this acro, and this nail here. I need to get this big fat nail out, and then I can take the ratchet strap and the acro away, and hopefully the whole thing will come out. There's the beam, it's out. Got some help in the end from the friendly neighbourhood electrician He came down and just gave me a hand to get it out. There's the old hole. And he said something very interesting about this stuff. So there's all this crap in here, and I'd assumed that the builders back in the day had put this in to fill the space, fill the voids. But he said, the electrician said, that this is all from mice. So mice crawled up into the crevices in the walls, made their little homes in there, and eventually they filled it up completely with these old bits of bedding. I guess they used it for make their little nests in, because if you look closely at it, you can actually see loads of little mice turds in there. So this stuff is absolutely everywhere in the walls. You can see it up here, there's a little bit in there, it's here as well, in that gap. So all along these dry stone walls, all inside there used to be mice living in there. Which is, yeah, it's kind of interesting. But yes, the beam is out. Woo! Right, well, the chainsaw made easy work of this beam. I should have got that out sooner instead of doing the sawing by hand. I was just a bit scared of holding a chainsaw up here above my head and cutting a massive beam. But very useful to cut it up into bits. This is still a bit of a stub just sticking out the wall, so still seems very firmly in there, so I'm not really sure what to do about that. Gonna have a little think about that. Right, I've gone ahead and cleared up all the crap on the floor, as well as opened up this hole a bit and cleared all of the stuff that fell down. So yeah, there's more of this mouse droppings, and I think it's like wheat chaffs and mouse droppings. You can see there's some poos, the black things are poos, and then the other bits, the brown bits, old kernels of wheat. Anyway, I've opened this up and it's ready for the next beam, the steel beam, which is currently down here. You can see it down there. So that big bastard has to come in this house. Probably gonna cut one of these out and then get the beam in through the gap, and then I'm gonna need a hand getting it in, I think. I have built this wall up a fair bit now. It's almost at the top. Here it is from the other side. As you can see, it's almost at the top. I've also taken a load of crap out here, so this is all opened up and ready. Well, it's almost at the right level for the steel beam that's going in. Over here I've picked out these holes at various intervals, and I'm building a column, just one brick thick, building a column up from the floor and lodging it into the wall with bricks here, and then building that up to the top just to give the steel beam a bit more support. So the steel beam will sit around here, and yeah, I've also cut out the old tree trunk. I accidentally bashed a hole into the neighbour's house because this wall here is only 2 bricks thick. So this brick here I had to put back in and yeah, bash the hole through. And that's important there because this beam, it was basically sliced in half, and the top half goes through to the neighbours and is actually a structural beam for them. And then the rest of the trunk went across here to that end. So I didn't know that, and I was sort of picking away at this and wondering why it was so hard to get out. And then, yeah, I accidentally bashed a hole through to the neighbours. So I've tried to patch it up a bit, but I'm gonna have to go around and sort of paint the plaster and paint the hole. But yeah, this is looking good. I'm gonna finish this column. The column's built, a little bit wonky and stuff, but it's gonna be hidden behind plasterboard anyway. And now on the top, I'm gonna cast a concrete block as kind of like a, what do they call them? Padstone, I think they call them. So I'm gonna cast a concrete block up here and it's going to be nice and level at the right height for the beam. So the beam will sit on top of it and it will just go straight in on top, nice flat surface. Right, I've boxed the top off there and given it a little clean inside, hoovered out all the dust. I'm now going to put a little bit of rebar, this metal stuff, put a bit of that in there and then pour some concrete in there. Okay, I've cast the concrete into that. Looks nice and level. And just got to let that set and then I can take off the wooden cladding. Right, I've built a bit of a box up here for the, you can see here there's some metal in it. Now I'm going to build up some stones on this side so that the concrete flows into them and locks into them. Same on this side, so the edges are still open, you see. So here's the other side cast and it's been curing for a day now. I splodged a bit of the excess concrete in here just to fill some gaps and built up the wall around it, built up the wall here, and yeah, this is looking solid now, but still hasn't been curing for very long, but I think it's solid enough to get the wood off and let it breathe a bit from the face. And yeah, this side obviously also gone off, it's looking good, and it's shrunk a tiny bit. You can see there it's just raised, just sort of the piece of wood is just, you see here, it's shrunk by about, because it was flush, and it's shrunk by about 2 millimeters probably. The next thing I'm going to do is cut these protruding beams, these old beams, cut them into shape. So I'm going to cut them down like that and also whittle them away a little bit so that they fit into the H section of the steel beam, just dunk like that. So I'm going to get the laser level out and have a little look at where to cut them and prepare it all very carefully because I can only cut them once. Right, so I got the laser level out and just sort of made this little platform for it to sit on. And what I've aligned the beam to go all the way along and then touch. Oh, there, and you can see it just there. And then it hits here. Handy chainsaw, but also pretty scary device. I've not had any safety training, so it's a bit intimidating, but these are now cut off. So the laser level's here, and that's just going straight down there. So here's some of the beams that are going to go in this new floor. And this one is sanded, this face, and this is unsanded. So got this sander here, with these sanding pads, and just going over them with a very coarse grain sandpaper to clean them up a bit, because these are second-hand beams, so they've been sat outside and I don't know, they've got some patches of sort of water staining and mould. So just sort of smooth them up a bit, and then I'm probably going to oil them and just whack them in. I'm not going to get too precious about them, but yeah, a quick rinse with the sander I think makes a lot of difference.